Ladies and gentlemen, SideStrafe here with America's Army Proving Grounds, and this is a brand new first-person shooter that is, of course, free to play, available on Steam, and it has been a very, very long time since I've played an America's Army game. Almost said it like America. That's probably the way it needs to be said. America's Army. America's Army. That's what we're going to get a lot now. But it has been so very long. And the last one I played was America's Army 3, and it was just a bag of terrible. I don't even really want to discuss it. It was just a nightmare. Read up on it. You'll hear the fiasco that it was. But, you know, the first and second America's Army, they did all right. More so the first one. Very classic. Back in the day, it was one of the first mainstream games to be just completely free to play, and people always wondered, why is this free? And then they realized, oh, this is funded and developed by the United States government, and it's pretty much a recruitment tool. So whether it worked or not, I don't know. How many of you were around then and perhaps joined the military because you were playing too much America's Army? If you joined up, well, I appreciate your service for no matter what the reason. But, you know, let's talk about this game. Enough of the past. So, what's the deal with this bad boy? Why is it here? What are their intentions? I don't know. I'm just going to play it. It's a game. It's free. It's on Steam. It's probably got its work cut out for it because Arma 3 is around and it's going to officially launch. And then you've got Battlefield 4 that's also around the corner. So, you know, if anything, maybe it's something to spend your time on until you wait for those games. But I will say that this title is going to be a little bit more realistic than Battlefield, at least. But maybe not so much as Arma. It's somewhere in between, at least right now in this normal mode. The ballistics are not exactly where I want them, and I'll get to that in a bit. I think I'm going to start out by discussing aesthetics, graphics, sound, animations, and whatnot. So, visually, we are using the Unreal Engine here, which is getting a little long in the tooth, but it still looks great. It ages well. It runs fine. And context front. Lay down some covering fire, perhaps, while that guy reloads. And get shot in the back. If I can run into cover somehow, probably not going to happen. So that was a crazy little ambush there. It was quiet for quite some time, and I'm secured, so I will not be revived. We'll talk about that when we get to the gameplay. Anyway, Unreal Engine. Honestly, if I have to just rate it right off the bat, it's a good-looking game so far. Discussing player models, the poly count is high. The attention to detail is there. There's a lot of little components on the character with the vest and the zip cuffs and the dump pouch, pistol holster, and the magazines, the helmet, everything excellent. Really good looking. The texturing on the uniforms with the multicam and the attention to detail in the fabric, just by looking at this guy's arm here, actually very well done again, especially for it being Unreal Engine. When it comes to the weapon models, the models themselves, I think, are pretty good. A poly count, again, you know, satisfactory. You've got the rail systems and the sights and whatnot. Everything looks decent. My one complaint, though, is that when you look through the sighting system, it doesn't feel like you're looking through a piece of glass. There's just nothing there except for the sight itself, and you know, there's not really any shine or glare or anything to make it seem like there's an actual optic in there. You know, you just see this little crosshair or dot. Like if you look through right now there, it's just clean and clear. So it really doesn't look good. And this guy's getting choked out. There is some close quarter combat in this. Not really that you have a chance to defend against it, but it's there, and it's kind of interesting. But so, you know, that would be my one complaint. With the sights just look pretty bad, and you know, the holographic dot itself just doesn't look great if you compare it to something like Battlefield 3 and soon to be 4, or any modern day shooter at that. So models, again, I think they look pretty decent. The texturing on the characters, I think, is adequate. The texturing on the weapons themselves is a little flat. And not that they should be glossy. I mean flat, in that they just feel dry, or there's no depth to them. I think that they could actually use some refinement in that department, because if you look at the textures on the uniforms and then you look at the textures on the weapons, they just seem like maybe they were made by different people and that they could be revisited. Because, like, again, if you look at this guy, the lighting and everything on him looks pretty good. There's a lot of detail there with the pouches and the camouflage. Again, I think it looks great there. It's just this weapon in the light you can kind of see is, I don't know. Could use, but that's just being extremely picky. It's nothing to cry about. Now, the fact that I've spent too much time staring at things and not joining up with my team, that's something to cry about. I'm going to go upstairs. So let's talk about the levels. So the texturing on the environments, again, adequate for the engine and the type of game we're dealing with. When you're in a firefight, you're probably not really going to pay too much attention to the textures. You're not going to be like running up to the wall and say, these textures are terrible, I hate this game, you know? When you're running around shooting at stuff, that's probably the last thing on your mind. So I really wouldn't complain about the textures and the levels. The levels themselves are pretty well designed. They're all close quarter battle environments, which is a little disappointing so far. Some of them are remakes of classics. I think this hospital one is a remake. There's the bridge one, of course, that was always very popular from America's Army 1, and we're gonna have to go downstairs and engage some of these threats and bring some people back maybe. So levels looking good. The draw distances are actually pretty well done and painted. You've got some, you know, some fog and smoke in the background. Definitely nothing to complain about, I think, there. But again, if you're looking for large environments, then you're probably not going to find too much of that. Let's see if we can bring this fellow back. Not get shot in the face. 2 down up front, so I'm thinking that we're going to get ambushed. He's getting tied up. And I'm not doing so hot. I'm going to have to bandage before I completely bleed out here. Flashbang out. And that didn't work. So he's got us. But we've become an angel now, though, so that's okay. We're all gravy. Mission failure. So, again, overall graphical appeal of the game, how it looks, I would rate it pretty high for a free-to-play. You know, there's some good-looking free-to-play shooters out there, namely Blacklight Retribution, being the one that comes to mind, using the Unreal Engine as well. This one, I think, ranks up there with a little bit different stylization, but it works, and, you know, I'm cool with that. So, animations. How about those animations? They're actually also pretty well done. As you can see, these guys just running around or walking around. I don't know that they're mocapped. I think that they might be hand animated, but if they are hand animations, then they're actually really good. The death animations are decent too. The reloads seem to be pretty legit and accurate. All the steps, I think, are there. You know, I'm not a true expert, but you know, I think I know my way around them enough to say that, yeah, they've done a decent job at animating reloads and making things look pretty good. So, you know, the firing itself, you know, how the gun feels in your hand when you're pulling that trigger, it doesn't feel so great. You know, it doesn't feel like you're shooting something that's doing damage. It feels a little soft, and I think that also has to do with the sound effects, really, more so than just the animations. But I'm gonna run from that grenade and get damaged again. Let's see if we can. Oh, friendly fire! Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. You better bring me back. It happens. What are you gonna do? Thanks. I'm sure it was just an accident. So there's that. But you know, when I'm in a shooter, you know, like Battlefield is always the best example. They've done a fantastic job. Flashbang out. Let's see if we can cover this guy. Gonna bring that guy back up. Shoot, I threw that flashbang out to provide cover. See if I can bring him up while he's flashed, hopefully. And that was just a bad gamble, I guess. So much for the flashbang. He must have just ran from cover. Screw you guys. There's just sometimes where you shouldn't save people. I guess that was one of them. But anyway, I tried. So, yeah, you know, I want to feel the punch of these weapons. I really do. And it's just not happening. But moving into sound effects, which I think is the biggest complaint I have in regards to aesthetics. The sounds are just absolutely terrible. The guns just sound really puny. Oh, and that was just the worst grenade that you could have ever thrown. But there it is. Yeah. Well, I'm glad to see that people are doing worse than I am. But, yeah, the sounds are just bad. I mean, flashbangs, smoke grenades going off, they sound okay. You know, you get the ringing in your ear. But I actually think that everything just needs to be revamped. And I know it's still a beta, but everything's a beta in my opinion these days. You can change anything at any time. So here's hoping that they work on those sounds, because they're just... There's a couple of sounds, like there's like a handful of sounds that are okay, but there's just a lot of it that just needs to change. Ambience is almost non-existent. I have the ambience volume slider turned all the way up, and you really can't hear much in the way of wind or background sounds or cars or planes. There's a couple of helicopters that fly by in some levels, but oh, we still managed to win that. Fantastic. But generally the sounds are just pretty poor, and probably the worst thing aesthetically about this game. So if you're a huge audiophile and it really bugs you, then you might have a problem with it. But otherwise, you can still enjoy the game. You know, I can get over it, even though I'm really picky about certain things. I think I'm going to use smoke. It's probably a little bit more effective. As you can see here real quick, well, look, there are a couple of different weapons to look at. M249 SAW for support, Remington shotgun, M14 for sniper, and there's some different sights as well here. But nothing crazy. Just enough to get the job done. And that's really all you need. I mean, guns are going to be pretty lethal, you know, no matter which way you look at it. So I think we've discussed aesthetics. Generally, I would rate it highly for a free-to-play game. It's a decent-looking title, whatever. The gameplay is where we're going to look at, what we're going to look at next. Well, right now, this is what would be considered their normal mode. There's supposedly a hardcore mode, but I don't see any servers for it. You can show or hide hardcore servers. They're non-existent. If you're trying to look right now, as of, you know, release date time, they're just nowhere to be found. I hope they exist. I hope that maybe it's just something that's not implemented yet. I don't know. I think there is a way to create your own server, but I just haven't looked into it completely. And I will with time. So there's some guys down in the distance there, but they're getting captured or secured, so it's probably not gonna last here. But yeah, I feel that the ballistics, it's a pretty lethal game. It's more lethal than most games normal mode, but try to pull out the pistol there. I grabbed two on the way, but they're just gonna get revived, so it doesn't really matter. And that's what we'll talk about next. But yeah, the ballistics, there are some cases where I'm having to put too many rounds into the enemies, especially with upper torso shots. Headshots will generally kill in one bullet, so there's nothing wrong with that. And you could argue it to the end of time. You know, oh, the bullets are hitting your plate carrier. They're hitting the magazine pouches. You know, they're hitting the weapon, whatever. You got to aim for the head. You gotta hit critical areas. But you know, I mean, if that's going to be the case, then you should really take more damage. If you get hit to the arm or the leg, you should limp. Your accuracy should fail you if you're hitting the arms, like the old Rainbow Six games. You know, that's the way it really should be. If you're not going to drop somebody in one or two bullets, you know, because yes, I understand that the plate carrier might be able to stop these rounds, or you got all your pouches filled with equipment that might, you know, prevent a death. So there's that. Now, okay, so the game in normal mode, it's still more lethal than Battlefield's normal mode. Battlefield, you probably, out of a 30-round magazine, using 20 rounds or more to drop somebody most of the time, depending on ranges. It's horrible. Battlefield's normal mode is just a complete joke, in my opinion. Their arcade mode is just, I can't deal with it anymore. This normal mode is I can actually live with it. It's something that I could play. But if they do present me a hardcore mode, then I'm definitely going to switch over to it, because I would like things like the sights in the middle to be gone when you're shooting from the hip. You know, there could be some UI. I think the UI elements are okay. I don't like that you have a health bar, really. There's no regenerating health, but you will bleed out. You'll see that my bar is yellow. It'll turn red. And I can choose to bandage that red part up. Otherwise, if you don't, you'll just like lose that bit of health if you don't bandage in time. And I think I'm gonna throw smoke out here. Try to cover this guy. Now I'm fragging out. Smoke. If I can bring these guys back. And as usual, everybody's pretty frag happy in this game, which is one thing I also don't like. I think you only get one, but it just feels like when one comes in, the rest of them do as well. So, yeah. Anyway, there's those mechanics. I think I want to get to the major thing here, which is, of course, the revival and the securing. As you see that guy just did, it said, so-and-so secured me. All right. So, you can be revived in this game, similar to how you can revive somebody in Battlefield or other games. The difference is in Battlefield, there's a certain time before you just bleed out and you can't be revived. In this game, there's no bleeding out upon being hit. You lay there until somebody revives you or until the enemy secures you. Now, you go up to the player, you hold E, you bandage them up, they're back in the fight at whatever health they had last. No full health. There's no bringing back health, not like Battlefield. It's just you have whatever you last left off on. Excuse me, not really left off on, because of course you've been eliminated, but I'm not sure how it calculates the percentage that's brought back yet, but you come back usually obviously lower than what you had before. So the only way to prevent the revival is to secure somebody. You've got zip cuffs. You take them, you go up, you hold E on the enemy, you cuff their hands together, and they cannot be revived. I don't know if there's a little bit of time in between the time where they're cuffed and maybe you can rescue them, but from what I can tell, once they're cuffed, it's pretty much over. You're not bringing them back. The issue is that, one, I just don't like revival. I don't even really like it in Battlefield, but I accept it because that's just what Battlefield has been since the beginning of time. But in here, I just feel that it's too potent. I feel that most of the game is just reviving people. Yes, you get rewarded for it. You get rewarded for cuffing people. But it's just that you don't bleed out once you're hit. If I get hit right now and the game goes on for its 5 minutes and nobody secures me, I will still be revivable until the end of the game if nobody secures me. I won't just fade out. I think that that's dumb. I think that, okay, you've been hit. You got shot in the neck. I mean, die already. You can't come back from that. You're out of commission. You're done. So, you know, in a game that's supposed to be as realistic as America's Army, it's just not doing it. You know, it's not really living up to its name in that department. The revivals, at least in hardcore mode, have to go completely or be severely limited. Now, yes, in this game, you only have, I think, 2 revivals. If you've been revived more than 2 times, maybe it's 3, I think it's 2. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Covering you.
You can't be revived anymore. Got him. Reload. So, yeah, I get 2 chances and I think you're out. But still, I think that it's just too much, and hopefully you know, server operators can lower it and not increase it. I hope that there's nothing that can be increased, actually, because if anything, the game just needs to get even more realistic instead of less. Kind of worried about what we got going on here at the 6, but we are defending as well. Kept wanting to put rounds into him. Got myself another challenge coin. The other issue is that there's no lean function within this game. Frag out. Which, is very disappointing, actually. You'd think that there would be. I'm going to zip this guy up. Make sure that he can't get revived. And, bad time to reload. Make sure that these are clear here. Oh, we got him too. I'm, of course, distracted here. I'm going to try to bring this guy back because I could use some help. Take these guys out of the mix. It's 3-on-3 now. This is getting pretty intense. I need to bandage myself a little bit. I don't have much left, but there's that. So yeah, you can see some things that I would like removed or improved upon if there's a hardcore mode. And I don't manage. Oh, we actually killed each other, so hopefully my friendly can bring me back. Maybe he's got some smokes he can pop. But there's the hostile, and I think he's going to get surrounded soon. He's just going to camp it and wait for him. If you're going to camp, at least do it right, Chief. That was just an epic fail on your part. It would have been if it was me too, but wow, it wasn't. So yeah, you can see where the fighting gets a little twitchy. Like it ends up being a couple people just, you know, circle strafing each other, old school deathmatch style, and that's not something I'm used to seeing in an America's Army game. Generally, it was engagement at ranges, weapon jams, you know, just very hardcore lethality, and I kind of miss that, and that's what I expected to see. Hopefully, again, we'll see that activated in some sort of hardcore mode. But otherwise, again, it's still more lethal than most games that you'll find out there today. And that's at least worth something. Beyond that, you know, there's some potential here because the movement speed is good. The walking and the running, it's not too fast. It's not too slow. I find that a lot of games that try to add realism, they just end up being too fast. You can't have fast run speeds and lethal ballistics. It doesn't work. And then that mode just becomes something for extremely hardcore, super hardcore fanatics that just have the most ultimate twitch reflexes that do nothing but live the game. You know, I guess I could say Call of Duty hardcore mode to me is just not something that I could ever compete with. In a way, Counter-Strike is the same. I just feel that the run speeds are just too much for the level of ballistics or lethality that you have with the guns. I feel that in this game, the run speed is just right. It almost reminds me of the old school Clancy games, and I think that that's what I've been looking for quite some time. It's just that if I could have the ballistics or the lethality raised up a bit, mixed with this run speed, I would be very happy. So there is that. And, you know, with the animation system the way it is, you know, things seem to work out pretty well. They're missing the lean. There's no Q&E lean, which I find absolutely ridiculous. I don't know why there isn't, but that's what we have to deal with. They do have an anchoring system, which I would like to show you, but I don't really want to get killed here. I'm going to get killed anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Can I bandage in time before he gets to me? You know, being able to bandage like that after getting shot that many times is kind of cheesy as well. But, you know, it is what it is right now. I'm just going to have to deal with it. I want to show you the anchoring. Basically, you go up to an object, you hit Z, and it's going to let you mount your weapon to it and duck behind cover, similar to how Rising Storm and Red Orchestra operate, except it's not as good because you can't actually do it on the side of a wall. Generally, it's usually flat cover. And reload here. And try to secure this hostile. Actually, I don't know if I got shot at by a friendly. I'm thinking that was a hostile. I'm going to grab some cover here and just on your six, move up. Camp a little bit. So, you know, I think that pretty much takes a look at the game. Let's see if I can see. I can't hit Z up against this structure here. And I can do it against something that's flat, but I don't think there's just much here. See here right now? Well, I could have hit Z on that. But it's just being able to pop up and down with very limited leaning. There just really isn't a whole heck of a lot, and it's just, you know, kind of unfortunate. But other than that, other than it's missing a few things, it could use the hardcore mode. It seems to have quite a few options. I'm probably going to take the time to really look at that now. If we look at the fact that there's an admin panel, there's your settings here. There's something called player experience, which actually allows you to disable text chat and voice over IP. There's a crosshair option. You can change the backgrounds to look at different crosshair colors. You can add your own colors. You can choose different crosses and dots and things like that. I think that's really cool. We've got gamepad support built in, HUD options as well. There's a whole host of options, which is really nice to see. A lot of games just tend to leave that kind of thing out, and well, that's unfortunate because I feel like a lot of PC games are going backwards instead of forwards, and it feels like this one's keeping a lot of the old school UI elements. There's no FOV slider. That's always a little disappointing, but I don't have a problem with the field of view as it is currently. Pop smoke. I find that smoke is extremely valuable here, except if you get shot in the skull repeatedly by the enemy. So he's going to just secure us, and we are done. But again, everything's glowing because this is the afterlife, I guess. So, you know, there's the game. I think that has pretty much covered everything I wanted to say about it. You're only really seeing, you know, this level here. There's quite a few others. There's also a smaller scale mode, which is 6 on 6. This is the 12 versus 12 mode. 6 versus 6, you're going to have some even smaller maps with different objectives. None of the modes have respawn, which I love. I love that there's 0 respawn. That's the way this game is meant to be played. Beyond that, it does have a couple of different game modes with objectives, flag capturing, attacking, bomb defusals, you know, standard issue stuff, really. And you have to remember, this is America's Army Proving Grounds. The story behind it is that both teams, Alpha and Bravo, are part of Army Special Forces. You've met up to prove each other's worth. You're testing each other. You're training together. It's a proving ground. So it's not really... It's just some sort of weird story that I guess they've created because they're kind of going through some sort of America's Army timeline. You can read about why they've come up with this, but yeah, it's whatever. And it's interesting. And the nice thing that they've maintained is no matter what team you join, you're always going to look like the Army team. So you're always going to wear the multicam no matter what side you're on. And the other team is always going to look like the OP4. And that's something that America's Army created long ago, and I like that they've continued it. And both teams look pretty cool. It's just the one has some sort of weird kind of red, brown camo pattern, but it's all right. Everybody looks cool. So there's potential here. I want to see this hardcore mode. I want to see some things fleshed out. I want some new sound effects, and this could actually be a fantastic title for me if they get that done. I'm not going to get too excited about it because I have a bad habit of doing that. But, you know, otherwise, you know, who knows? For a game that just popped out of nowhere that's once again free-to-play, it's not that bad. I've seen worse free-to-play first-person shooters, and this one definitely ranks with the best of them. I just think that they need to work on a few things, and since it is beta, they can do whatever they want. Heck, even if it wasn't, they could still do whatever they want. We just need to give them that feedback. So, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check this game out on Steam. It is free. I'll have a link in the description below. I will definitely see you on the next one.